Guys, welcome to another video for WonderHero Guides. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a little bit more advanced stuff about setting up the so-called the stats, setting up the stats and understanding the stats and then setting up your team for maybe more success, not like guaranteed success, but maybe better success in the PvP arena as well as in PvE as well. So first and foremost is I will show you guys how to access the stats under the bottom of your main screen on WonderHero here. If you click on Hero, you will see that there's the usual equipment on the right hand side. You can tap on Skill, Enhance to level up your heroes. And the last one here is actually Stats. So under Stats, it's actually pretty detailed. You can see your attack damage, your total hit points, defense, as well as resist. Right? So maybe I'll just explain a bit what the stats do. So obviously attack damage, this attack stat will be the amount of attack damage that you do when you attack an enemy, right? Whether it's elemental, true damage, or physical damage, it depends on your items because it depends on your item description. If you read the items, they will actually say, for example, my black and white for weapon for Sarah deals physical damage, right? But if we look at my Murasame for my Shion, click on the item, read the description here, it does true damage. And I believe if you look at my Cersei Bannister, if you tap on a Holy Codex weapon, read the description, this does elemental damage, right? So the type of the elemental damage you cannot see from the stats, but yet you have to go into the weapon description to read it. So that is for the attack damage. Defense for this with a shield icon, this is physical defense. So that means this will defend against physical damage, which is what my Sarah actually does with a black and white weapon. The resist here is actually elemental resist, which means let's say my Cersei does elemental damage, right? So if an enemy has very high elemental resist, they will actually resist that damage. Then the calculations are pretty simple. So how much damage a hero will receive, you just take the attack damage minus away the defense. So let's say the hero does, in the PvP arena game or in the actual game itself, the amount of damage that they do, right? So let's say they do 912 damage to you, right? Physical damage. And you have 205 defense, so you minus away 205. So you will take 707 damage to either your armor or your hit points. But if the opponent is doing elemental damage to me in this case, so let's say opponent does 912 elemental damage, I would minus off 324 elemental resist. So I will only take 588 damage to either my armor or my hit points. And then obviously when your hit points go to 0, your hero will die. And there are also certain items that will actually give what we call armor. So for example, if you look at, usually armor is either given by the very specific skills of a hero. Usually heroes like Sigrid as well as Fran, they will have a specific skill to actually gain armor. So those heroes are pretty tanky because of their armor. But other than that, there's also a way to gain armor via the items, right? So let me check. Yes, for example, my Valhalla Battlesuit for my Helen actually has 448 armor. So when I go into PvE, she will have this additional 448 amount of armor on top of her hit points, which is 3757. So that is armor. So armor will be deducted first, and then after armor is all gone, then you will deduct the hit points, right? Then here you will actually see detailed stats of your percentage damage, so of your bonus damage or bonus defense. So in this case, maximum damage you can do with critical hit and all that is 500% damage. She actually gets defense. So these are all the defense stats. She actually gets extra 14% defense when going against human enemies dealt by human enemies. So how you get all this like ulti defense and all is usually through either your skills or mostly through equipment, right? This one is percentage damage. So if you click on the Valhalla Battlesuit, you will see that there's a human defense element here, which gives 40% additional defense when a damage is coming from a human enemy, right? And then there are also cyborg enemies, and then there's also mech enemies. So in this case, it don't have, yeah. And then sometimes your skins will also have certain defense stats as well. So in this case, if you look at my Helen skin, her skin actually gives her additional 12% physical defense, right? And additional 9% buff to her hit points. Okay. So then it will be reflected in the detailed stats. So cyborg defense of 10%, I am not sure where it comes from. I think maybe it's a class, because a certain class gets a certain damage buff or damage defense against another class. I'm not 100% sure on that. You can check the WonderHero.io website under their guides for that. And then here you will see the percentage damage buff to either human, cyborg, or mech enemies. And that is usually from the equipment piece in the attack badge. So here, obviously, it has attack damage, and you will see that there's 9.5% additional damage to humans, and also does 9.5% additional damage to mech, right? And it will be reflected in the stats here. Okay, so this is the stats. So a little bit, maybe just some general, I wouldn't say tips, but maybe some strategies that you can do is that for usually if your team has like a range DPS, right? It's like Helen or Angela. Typically speaking, they are more suited to be focusing on maximizing their damage, because they are not usually in the front line, they're usually in the back line. So you want to equip them with your attack badges that has the highest attack or the highest percentage buff to their attack for usually such range DPS. Then in terms of the armors, obviously the higher hit points you can give them, the better. But then again, if you're choosing between giving a high hit point equipment to Helen, or you want to give it to a frontline DPS like Sarah, or maybe you have a Sigrid, or maybe you have a Celeste that is actually going to the front line and tanking a lot of enemy hits, you would rather give your highest defense piece to your melee DPS hero, because your melee DPS hero is going to get up in the face of the enemy most of the time. So you will want them to survive the longest, right? So you're going to give them the most hit points in terms of the skins, and especially in terms of the equipment. So let's say you don't have a choice in skins, right? You're stuck with your 4 skins, but you have a choice in like 12 pieces of equipment that you can actually swap around and then give to your your team members. Then in that case, I will obviously want my melee DPS, my frontline so-called tanks or melee DPSs to get the melee heroes to get the most hit point and most armor, and then maybe a little bit less attack. And then I want my highest damage, maybe range DPS hero, maybe like a Helen with a Manticore, or maybe an Angela with one of her 5-star weapons, and so on, to get the highest damage. But of course, in this case, it depends on your team as well, right? Because for some teams, some of their melee heroes actually do the highest damage as well. So, for example, here my Xion actually does the my Helen does the highest damage. But let's say if you don't have a Helen that doesn't have such a high attack, in this case, the Xion here will be the highest DPS hero, right? Highest damage hero. Then in that case, I would want to equip my Xion with the best equipments, like the highest damage attack badges. Then I will also want to give my Xion the highest armor and highest hit points as well, because I want my Xion to survive the longest, so that she can do as much damage as possible while she survives. Right. So these are just some small tips on how to min-max the effectiveness of your equipments, and then some explanation on the stats and so on. So hope this helps anyone who's watching, and we'll see you guys next time.